This is the sluggo, slant and go.
It's called sluggo.
Casey the Beef Cregan. I screwed up the intro one more time. Let me get that off of the screen. I think we need a full-time producer, and I'm thinking that'd be you, since you have great experience with Big Game Loser.
No more producing.
Producing
my plate is full.
And it's not often you can say that, right? Your plate is usually like half empty because you've been chowing down on it. But I know your plate is full, and we're going to rectify that in a couple of weeks after we get through the ACC championship game and give you some time off to enjoy the holidays and your family and it's just enjoying. I know you've been traveling a lot, and I appreciate you joining me almost every Wednesday during the football season. But we'll give you some time to relax, and we won't even dock your salary. We'll keep it just the same. Hey, Locks is under the weather a little bit tonight. He won't be joining us unless he's in the comments, but didn't sound like he'd even be in the comments tonight. So get better, Locks. I was giving you a hard time this afternoon, but that's what we do, right? And we hope you get better.
Definitely.
So a little bit of a downer tonight. I think we just kind of, we're usually fun and jokes and laugh a lot, but I think we probably need to say something about what happened at Virginia. Just what an incredible tragedy. And, at any time it would be a tragedy, but Tony Elliott's first year as a head coach, and he's faced with 3 players being shot and killed by a former player, not under him, but a former player. So just a tragedy all the way around. I just saw like an hour ago, all the ACC teams are going to have a sticker on their helmet as a little way of remembering and keeping Virginia in your thoughts. But just a tragic situation, Beef.
Yeah, it really is, and it stinks, like you said, that it's his first year. Not that it would be better if it wasn't his first year, but it's still you feel for him. I know Dabo. Of course, we bring it back to Dabo, but Dabo said if anyone was equipped for this, I'm not sure anyone's equipped for it, but he said that Tony Elliott is the right guy. Just really tragic. It's tragic if it happens anywhere, and I think it's just kind of, it's kind of made more tragic that it's more notable names on campus. You had 3 football players. Heck, Houston Burnett and I used to not make fun of, but talk about the 6'7" receiver, because the announcers kept saying that the last time Clemson played Virginia, and it's Lavelle Davis, one of the 3 players that was tragically killed. So just a really bad situation, really sad situation. This one kind of shook me a little bit, and I've become really good friends with another show that I help on, the Message Board Geniuses show. I've become friends with the host, who is a Virginia guy, and he's really connected, and he's just a really good guy, and I think that kind of helped aid in shaking me on this one, but I think it's just maybe the celebrity of the 3 that were murdered, and one of the other players that's in the hospital. Hopefully he makes it through, the running back, and the rumor is it's a woman on the track team. That's the 5th person. But yeah, just really, really, really sad, really, really tragic, and you can't help but be okay with the fact that they're not playing this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly understandable. Good afternoon, good evening, Sylvester and Kevron. Thanks for checking in, and thanks for your thoughts. Like I said, we're usually pretty lighthearted around here, but it's hard to imagine, what they're going through there in Virginia. So thoughts and well wishes, and if you pray, throw some prayers in there because they're really needed. And hopefully something. I never like it when somebody says something good will come out of this, but you just hope somehow something changes, because it's happens too often, in my opinion.
We'll
Okay,
get to the having fun too. We'll still have some laughs tonight.
we are
But
going to have some laughs. We had a good time, Beef, when Clemson beat Louisville on Saturday. And for one of the few times this year, it seemed like perhaps it wasn't a close game. It was still 17-7 at halftime, but you didn't feel like Louisville was going to do a lot, especially with Malik Cunningham being injured, unable to, be himself. Just felt like Clemson had it under control for, I'd say, three quarters, 75% of the game. Really no sweat. There was no furious text back and forth between me and you wondering what was wrong. I was a little frustrated at the fumbles. It seemed like everybody had the fumbleitis. But at any rate, Clemson had a pretty clear and convincing win over Louisville Saturday. A Louisville team, I'll add, had won 4 consecutive games before Saturday.
yeah, they were probably the hottest team coming in the out of the ACC, not named North Carolina. Really, if you think about it, Clemson coming off that demoralizing loss at Notre Dame, and Louisville just rattling off four victories in a row. But I will tell you, Marty, I think very early in that game, and they showed Malik Cunningham's hand before in their little open, and it looked like he just had like a Band-Aid on it. Like it was a weird close-up of it. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it because it's not his legs, right? But the first 2 series, they didn't run him at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it was one of those things that my eyebrows were raised. They didn't run him like not once, and there was no option. There was no RPOs. It was straight handoffs around the off tackle, and like short passes. And I'm just thinking to myself, something's up with this kid. And then he did take off once, I think, in the 3rd drive, and then right before half, obviously he took a huge hit.
Yep.
But on the flip side, how good was the Clemson defensive front on Saturday? They owned the day, and I think a little foreshadowing to this week with this patchwork offensive line for Miami coming to town, they may feast again.
Yeah, it's kind of what we've been looking for all year, right? Dominating defense, which really hasn't been there. But even then, it was 3rd and 14. The guy ran for 65 yards or whatever it was. Just bizarre and crazy at times what's happening on defense, which has me kind of worried about next year if some of those guys don't return. Sylvester says never felt like the game was getting away. However, the backup quarterback played better than Cunningham. And I guess that's true. But again, Cunningham, as Casey noticed, I didn't notice it. I just noticed he didn't run the ball. He was apparently injured. I guess they were scared he was going to get a helmet to that hand if he ran the ball. So was a player.
Brock Doman had some the backup quarterback for Louisville. Malik's kind of been battling some injuries through the year, so he actually started the game. So he does have experience, and he's a junior, I believe. So that wasn't necessarily a surprise that he was going to be relatively successful because he could throw it better than Malik. But yeah, he definitely looked better at times than Malik Cunningham, certainly. But we saw Malik Cunningham last season, and he took over that game and almost single-handedly won it for Louisville. So we knew what he was capable of. I think the injury really kind of slowed him down.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking more. Yeah, I wasn't thinking he was going to throw it all over the place. I thought he was going to scramble, designed runs, as you said. But anyway, nice victory for Clemson, and 18-point favorite this week, which we'll get to in a little while. But and then South Carolina next week. I was thinking about this as I was looking up the schedule for this week. This is the SEC's week to play the Cupcakes, right, before they play their rivals. South Carolina's already played all of their Cupcakes, right? They have to play Tennessee this week. Of course, Tennessee's playing a cupcake. Should have did there. But South Carolina actually has to play Tennessee before they play Clemson after they got slammed by Florida. So, wow, just kind of crazy, their end of the year schedule. But like I said, they had their Cupcakes. They chose to schedule them early in the season and rack up those wins and get the encouragement and motivation and think they were going to, have their fans all excited about being 6 and whatever, and got to pay for it now on the back end. All right. Last week, TCU beat Texas. UCLA and Oregon lost. The Pac-12 just a week ago. We're talking about maybe they'll get 2 teams in the playoff. They're the greatest conference. They're really good. And then UCLA and Oregon goes out and loses. Bama beats Ole Miss, but it was close. Bama's just not the Bama that we know and hate. And North Carolina beat Wake Forest to win the Atlantic. Is that right? No. Coastal.
The Coastal.
It's been 20 years and I still can't get it right. The Coastal, and then North Carolina and Clemson will play in the playoffs, in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, a good week of football. It really was. The noon game was LSU and Arkansas that I watched, and that led into Clemson and Louisville, and then TCU and Texas. Also, then UCLA, Oregon, and who did Oregon lose to? Washington, which was a fun game to watch as well. Bama and Ole Miss. That was one of those that you kept getting text messages like, "Hey, turn on Bama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is about to win this," and they didn't. And that UNC Wake game, I'm a weird guy. I tend to watch the SEC games or the ACC games. I'm not Lux. I tend to watch the ACC games more often. Like I was watching Florida State Syracuse the other week. I was watching, I just find myself watching UNC Wake Forest for the majority of the game, and that was a lot of fun. It was a game that I think Wake Forest probably should have won, but Drake May's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of the ACC. I do occasionally if I see a score and it's an interesting game, but I'm more of a Big 12 guy. It's obviously where I live. It's what the people around me talk about all the time. If there's a great SEC game on, I'll watch that. But if it's just I'm not Locks either. If you're run-of-the-mill SEC game, I'm not watching like Mississippi and Vanderbilt play because it's SEC.
I was watching BC, NC State. I mean, that's how low I've gotten.
Okay, intervention. No wonder your wife says you have a problem. Alabama would have 3 losses. I thought the same thing. I think that's one of the texts I sent to Casey and Locks during the game. I said, are they going to lose again? Are they going to have 3 losses? Are they going to be 7-3? But they pulled it out. And I heard somebody the other day on a podcast, a national podcast, say Drake May should win the Heisman. He won't, but he said he's the best player in America. I haven't seen him that much. I've seen him a couple times, and the time, it's just been a bad timing thing. I saw them when they almost lost to Appalachian State. Yes, he put up 60-something points, but it was App State, and I saw him another game where they looked kind of pedestrian. I don't remember who they played, but they didn't score 50 that game. They scored like 28, and they obviously won the game. So I haven't seen him at his best, and I hope I don't. When the year's over, maybe he'll be at his best in the bowl game after the ACC championship game.
You know what? It's funny. My affinity for Zay Flowers at Boston College. I also have a big-time affinity for A.T. Perry at Wake Forest. And all of those players are absolutely dynamic and can take over a game, whether they're taking end arounds or catching little slot passes to the house. There's a better one, and it's Josh Downs. And I don't think he's getting a lot of credit nationally that Drake May is, and Drake May is really good. He extends plays with his feet. He's really smart for a freshman, but he's got this outlet. It reminds me a lot of Amari Rodgers back in the day. When you needed a first down or you needed something, Josh Downs is always open, and it's usually by 10 yards or more. So don't sleep on him. He's probably the best outlet receiver, if that's even a thing in the country. This kid's pretty good, and I wish we had Isaiah Simmons at Clemson still around because he would just shadow that kid all day long. But he's going to be a load in Charlotte.
I think outlet receiver is a thing, and it makes me sad that Clemson doesn't do that anymore.
We don't have one.
Yeah, they don't do it. They don't have the Renfro. Renfro was more of a over the middle, 3rd and 3, you'd get 7 or 8 or whatever. But when I think of outlet, I think on the edges, kind of on the side, and then. He runs with the ball. So, it makes me sad. Makes me real sad. I did see some of TCU and Texas, and this was funny because it came on at 6:30 here. After the Clemson game, I let things settle for a while. Then I write my little one-pager, just kind of, stream of consciousness about the Clemson game. And I said, oh, my God, I missed like the first quarter and a half of this game. I wonder what the score is. It was 0-0. That's what it was. In a Big 12 game, a Big 10 West game showed up, and I didn't miss a thing. It was weird. In Texas, of course, I bet on all the Texas guys, as I tell you in Locks. Sure things are yours. Bijan Robinson, maybe throw in one of their receivers because they're going to kill it. They didn't do crap, and I lost every single bet on Saturday because those guys were my fantasy guys, and they didn't do a thing on Saturday. So credit to TCU. You know, everybody thought they were going to lose that game, and they were underdogs. And whatever it is, if Ewers is hurt now, that's what they're talking about now. He must be hurt. He's not the same. Well, you're not playing the same defenses either. So who knows? But credit to TCU.
Yeah, I think that game was 3-0 at halftime, wasn't it?
3 or 7. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
It was. I don't remember, but you could be right. I don't remember. Half punch and
1-2 punch in Chapel Hill. Yeah.
I was like, half. What?
Too bad their defense isn't very good, but statistically they're not that bad. But they definitely have that narrative going. I think they're only averaging 25 points given up a game, and whereas like Clemson's at 20.
Yeah.
So
that's not going to cut it. I don't think.
No.
The way things are trending. All right, college football playoff rankings. The third edition came out this week. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and the TCU, all expected, really. Clemson was number 9. I wrote a article for rubbingtherock.com today that kind of tried to give the other side of, yes, you could see them being ranked ahead of Alabama with 2 losses, or USC, who really hasn't played anybody. But on the other hand, you got smashed by Notre Dame, who lost to Marshall and Stanford. So I don't really think there's room for an argument. You could argue it, and I wouldn't be mad at you. I'm just saying I wouldn't, because the team I saw play Notre Dame's not a playoff team. They're not even a top 10 team. Now, we know Clemson's better than that, but the question is, you're going to argue over being 7th. The main part of my article I wanted everybody to understand is I don't think Clemson can make it even if they win out, because 2 of those teams aren't going to play in a conference championship game, right? Tennessee and Alabama are ahead of Clemson, and they're not going to play in a conference championship game, so they're not going to have a chance to lose again. I don't think Clemson stands a chance. People are saying they do. I'm sure you could spend 5 hours coming up with a scenario where Clemson made the playoff. I don't think it's worth it.
You ready for this?
Uh-oh.
I read your article.
Whoa!
And I agree. I'm with you. The fact that Alabama and Tennessee can't lose again is a huge – they're ahead of us. They're ahead of Clemson. So unless you value the ACC championship, that's if Clemson can beat North Carolina and can beat Miami and South Carolina the next 2 weeks, which we believe they can and should. I don't know what can be done, especially with the narrative going with Tennessee. I don't think Alabama has a shot, and yet they're still ahead of Clemson. So I just don't see a path for them or Clemson to get to the playoff. But maybe call me a Debbie Downer or something. Maybe it's better to just play New Year's 6 this year. Maybe it's actually more fun to go play, I don't know, you name it, somewhere other than
Orange Bowl.
other than New Orleans. It is just the Orange Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Unless Notre Dame is part of that too. They may get a shot, but yeah, it would just be fun to play somebody different. Maybe a TCU. Well, if TCU loses, maybe a TCU. That would be fun. I just play somebody different, someone not named West Virginia in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, Sylvester has a point here. I guess Alabama could lose to Auburn, but the chances are not very good. Same
thing like Clemson. They shouldn't.
Right. When you're looking at their schedule, you don't say, well, they may lose that game. They could, but and Clemson could lose to South Carolina, but they're probably not going to. Here's an idea.
I never thought I'd say this. That's boring to me. We've seen that. Yes,
and much bigger. We've seen it for much bigger stakes too, and it's kind of like here's the old man in the corner.
yeah. I mean, it would be fun. Don't get me wrong, and it would be a good game probably, but we've seen it. I want to see, like last year was kind of fun for me with Iowa State. We'd never seen Clemson versus Iowa State. I haven't. And so maybe somebody different. Like that's why I said TCU. It's been since I was a student, I think, that Clemson played TCU, and that's a long time ago.
Like 2009 or something. No, you weren't a student in 2000.
I wasn't. No.
I thought you were in your 9th junior year. Before then, Dabo was the head coach, so had to.
Was it?
Right around
we did
there.
play them.
Yeah,
okay.
2008. It's raining. It was Andy Dalton, and yeah.
Sure. I was there then. Okay, I was at the game, but
yeah, you don't remember. Shocker.
I guess I wasn't a student. Maybe it was Marshall with Chad Pennington that we played when I was a student.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I do remember that one. All right, this week, as we talked about, Clemson plays Miami. They're a 19-point favorite, which shocked me. But I guess, as you've pointed out, Miami's had a lot of injuries and they're moving quarterbacks around, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe not so surprising. But Miami's coming off a 21-point victory over Georgia Tech. So who knows? TCU could lose to Baylor, as Sylvester pointed out, that Alabama could lose to Auburn next week. Let's see, Kentucky and Georgia, probably no contest there. Georgia is steamrolling everybody. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma in a game that used to really mean something, but, I mean, this year, not so much. UCLA and USC, so somebody's going to get their third loss of the season. Is that it? No, USC only has one. So they're going to get another loss there. And that's what I put in that article also. People love to go like week 7 and say, man, there's 8 undefeated teams. And if you look at it, like 6 of them play each other, right? And as you go through the season, some are going to be undefeated. Some are going to lose to somebody you don't expect. But then there's the Michigan-Ohio State scenario, the Georgia-Tennessee scenario, and now this scenario where UCLA could pick up another loss or USC could pick up their second loss. Same goes with Utah and Oregon. But those are really the better games of the week, at least looks like to me. Now, they come on at 9 something my time, so I know you and Locks will be fast asleep, and I might be too, because last week I didn't even make it till 11 o'clock. So anything out of those games, maybe Clemson, Miami, if you'd like to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, I'm literally, I have 2 tabs open on my screen right now, and I'm doing the opponent research for rubbingtherock.com. So I have done some film study and some work on that one. Sylvester said it in the comments here. Miami head coach came out with their long list of injured players. I'm trying to weed through it. I will tell you that with their depth chart this week, they did say that Tyler Van Dyke will be the starter, whatever a depth chart's worth, because last week, true freshman Ja'Cory Brown was the starter and was rather serviceable. He didn't throw for many yards, but he ran for a bunch, and they won 35-14. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to, even though it says Van Dyke, he is still battling back from, I think he's 2 weeks removed from an injury in that Virginia game. So, or before the week before the Virginia game. So he is still battling back from, I believe, a shoulder surgery. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who they run out there. My eyes definitely did the whole eyebrow up when I saw the depth chart released and it said Van Dyke on it. But the defensive front from Miami is very, 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 very good. They have probably 4 to 5 guys that are NFL bound on that team. I don't know why they're bad, but a thing that I put, I'm giving away my article here, but the thing that I said at the end was, we know Clemson wants to run. We know Clemson wants to establish that running game. We do. Clemson does get Pace back this week too, so that now you truly have that 3-headed monster back. And that front 4, at least, is really, really pretty good for Miami. They're deep too. They run in about 6 or 7 guys out there, and they're all sophomores. It's crazy. There's 4 or 5 sophomores that they run out there. Their leading tackler is a senior that doesn't even start there on the defensive line. So it should be a good test for Clemson to see if they can run against a really good front. I think once they get to the 2nd and 3rd level, Cameron Kitchens is a safety for Miami that has 6 interceptions on the season. So I think he's going to be somebody that DJ needs to look off, because he does come from that strong safety position. But there's obviously deficiencies. I'm just trying to I didn't see any in the front four, but I guess in that middle level, I don't know how they're giving up, 35 points to teams that they have, and 12 to Virginia, 9, or it was a close game at 27-24 to North Carolina.
Yeah, I didn't look into the details, but 3 times they've given up 45 points this year. And I don't know if there were, defensive or special teams touchdowns in those, but Middle Tennessee State, Duke, and somebody else scored 45 on them. 3 45-point games, which is a little shocking. But I know how you preview teams, and you've admitted this, you tend to make them out to all be great. And as you're talking there, I'm thinking, well, how's this team 5-5? How, and you said it. You even said it. You don't understand how they are 5-5.
Well, they have the talent up and down the roster. The talent is there, and I get it. It's first year. It's a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, who I put a little spin on this week's article. That defensive coordinator, I wish we were playing in the Orange Bowl, because that guy gave up 70 in that building. So Kevin Steele is the defensive coordinator at Miami. Ooh. So we get to see him back in Death Valley this week. Josh Gaddis came over from Michigan. He won the Broyles Award last year for the best assistant in the country. But their offense some weeks is completely anemic. Tyler Van Dyke was supposed to be the best quarterback in the ACC, can't stay healthy. And then when he's healthy, he's inconsistent. So they're turning the ball over. I think they're probably putting their defense in tough spots. It's an enigma. Miami is an enigma, and I think they're going to be okay. Oh, another thing, Clemson fans, there's a wide receiver they're going to run out there on Saturday that we know is really good for one major drop a game and getting hurt, but he's been healthy for 10 games, and that's Frank Ladson Jr. So Frank Ladson is back for Miami.
I followed him the first couple of weeks of the season to see how he did. He didn't do much in those games, so I quit following him. So Frank has had a good season?
I wouldn't say good, but he's been healthy.
Okay.
I wouldn't say bad either. So he's been fine. So one thing, here I go, but I'm sorry, Marty. The one thing that we found recently with our opponents is there's one receiver that just kind of head and shoulders. Is Michael Mayer had 100 receptions and the next guy had 4.
Yeah.
I forget the other teams or Syracuse, Aronde Gadsden had how many receptions and the next guy had 6. Miami actually has a whole bunch of guys that have catches. And I say all that long-windedness to say that Ladson has 27 receptions for 298 yards and a touchdown. So he's averaging 11 yards a catch. Yeah, okay, he's not the long range guy that Clemson thought he was. His long is 23 yards. So, and he's got he's tied for second on the team in receptions. Will Mallory, the tight end who's been there for 100 years, has 29 and he's got 27. I say he's tied for third. I'm sorry. Okay. So, yeah, Rashard Smith.
Not a great season.
All sophomores.
But as you said, he's healthy and good for him. All right. Even though we have no locks tonight, Casey and I are going to make locks picks for him. Did you get the money from locks, by the way?
I did.
Okay. Well, let's do the intro before we start talking. Don't think you could have done any worse if you tried?
Well, I take that as a victory.
These guys aren't doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty. I don't like this. Look, you smell it, the backdoor cover.
All right, 2 things about that. Beef, you do stink the most as far as record goes, but as far as dollars, I stink the most. And number 2 is I still love Spencer Rattler for different reasons now than when I recorded that little ditty there. But I still love Spencer Rattler as the Gamecocks turn on him. Boy, that didn't take long, did it? It's hilarious. Okay, first up, I'll go first since I'm in last place money-wise. I'm going to, speaking of Spencer Rattler, I'm going to take Tennessee minus 21.5. And I'm going to bet 110 slug bucks. Now, I don't think I need to explain why I'm taking Tennessee, but I will. They score a lot. South Carolina doesn't score a lot. That's my
Good
that's my
on.
that's my analysis. And I think Tennessee can score 21.5 because when those guys get rolling, they get rolling. 110 Sluggo Bucks on Tennessee minus 21.5. What you got, Beef?
Well, we got what, 2 weeks left of this?
Yeah, this week and
This
next
week and
week.
next week. All right, so I have 2,446 Sluggo Bucks and 87 cents of Sluggo Bucks. That's good to know. So I'm going. My first one is Wake Forest. Wake Forest is playing at home against Syracuse. Syracuse is in their free fall after going 6-0. I believe they've lost 3 in a row, so they're 6-3. They travel to Wake Forest. Wake's has a couple really bad losses, and actually a good loss last week, if that's such a thing. I just think Wake Forest is still okay, and Syracuse is in their free fall. I believe Syracuse defense has given up, and so I'm going Wake Forest minus 10 for 1,000 Sluggo Bucks.
Woohoo! Wow, I like it. I like this expensive beef. You know, if you remember, after Clemson played Syracuse, the next week they played Notre Dame. And friend of the show and friend of everybody's show, Pauk, um, said that he said, "Well, what do we got to, how can we beat them?" And I told him at that time, I said, "They're all beat to hell." The Syracuse defense. Remember the guy, the 5'3" nose guard was like getting hurt on every play, and he'd go out and come back, get hurt again, go out, and the safety was hurt, and everybody was, and that's true. They are really hurt, or they were. They just have never been the same since that Clemson game. Physically beat up. They were undersized, and they talked about it during the game. This Syracuse defense is undersized, and they're playing well, and they were, but they paid the price, and they're still paying the price. Locks took Ole Miss minus 2.5 versus Arkansas, and I don't know why, but if you do, please expound.
I don't know why. I almost picked that too until I realized that he had, and just for sanity's sake, just to keep it different. But yeah, I like this Ole Miss pick. I don't know why, but he picked it for 1,000 Sluggo Bucks.
Ooh, you guys are. Well, of course, you got Sluggo Bucks to bet, and I don't.
No, I'm just trying to do it. It's just half this week, half next week.
Not me. You'll find out coming up. I am going to take USC, not the one that's going to lose to Tennessee, but the one in Southern California. I'm going to take them minus 2.5 against UCLA. UCLA is coming out talking a whole bunch of trash, saying they want to score 60 or 50 or 60, and they may, but all I got to do is win by a field goal, and I win this game. I think Southern Cal's the better team. I'll take Lincoln Riley's offense over Chip Kelly's, at least in this version. So I'll take Southern Cal minus 2.5 for 110 Sluggo Bucks.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yep.
I'm going to my next game. I don't know if you know this, Marty, but the SEC, there were so many good games to choose from. There was SEC teams playing East Tennessee State, Austin P, Western Kentucky, and I saw a guy on Twitter today, an LSU fan, talking about Southern Cal playing nothing but cupcakes, and I wanted to say something very bad, like good luck against UAB this weekend. So anyway, I'm picking that game, LSU UAB. LSU's only a 14.5 point favorite. UAB's 5-5 on the year. I don't know what's going on. I know this is a sucker bet. Maybe it's the hook. I'm not sure. I'm going LSU minus 14.5, and I went 246.87.
246.87. 2,400. Oh no. All right. Locks' second pick is Wisconsin, Nebraska over 39. This is known as a lock special. He tries to find some weird over under. And he found a good one, I think, with 39 points. Maybe not. It's a Big Ten West game. It might be 10-7.
It might, yeah.
It might be 10-7. What did Locks venture to bet on this one?
He won 1,000 for this one too, so he's obviously feeling some sort of confidence here.
Or he's feeling the pressure of what I'm about to say.
There you go, maybe.
Well, we for all two of you, Sylvester and somebody else, who are watching tonight, we share these picks during the week with each other because, we sometimes pick the same games at different spreads, but we like to spread it around and not steal the other guy's picks. So we share them during the week. And I told the guys that I needed to find a money line because last week I was a brilliant one, even though I went crappy 2-1, had our only loss of the week. By the way, we went 7-1-1 last week, folks. And I picked TCU to beat Texas, not because I thought they'd beat Texas, because I needed them to beat Texas to get the plus 222 on the money line, and I did. It came through. So I thought, well, which game this week could I pick to get back into this thing? Or on the flip side, put me out of my misery really, 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 and just crush my hope like a acorn under my foot. And I found one. Louisiana is a 24-point underdog to Florida State, but the money line is, what is it, Beef? I forgot.
1350
plus 1350, which means that I will get 13 and a half times my bet if Louisiana wins, and I'm betting 1,000 Sluggo bucks. Not because I think it's a smart bet. What you folks out there don't understand is that you can't take your Sluggo bucks with you. So it does me no good whatsoever to end up with like 500 Sluggo bucks at the end of this. And that's what Casey's doing. He's spreading his out. I'll just be a little thinner after Saturday to spread about 1,000 Sluggo bucks, Louisiana over Florida State in an upset money line. And I don't know if Locks is listening, but that's why he's betting 1,000, because he knows I was coming for him. I'm coming. I could take the lead with that upset at noon on Saturday morning. I don't even believe this. Anyway, your next bet, Beef.
My next and final bet is, I don't know why I ride these guys so much. It's probably my second favorite college football team, and I don't know why that either. But Boston College travels to Notre Dame this week. The spread is 21. I don't think Boston College wins. This is somewhat of a rivalry. Notre Dame fans that didn't go to the school there call it backup college for BC. But if they didn't go there, then how is it back? Anyway, that's a story for another day. But Notre Dame is riding high, right? They're beating everybody. But I just think BC is going to keep this close. They've been playing a lot better recently. Emmett, whatever his name is, the quarterback, McCormick, maybe it's something Irish, is I had his name. Anyway, Zay Flowers is looking good. Pat Garwo's getting the running game. The defense is looking better. I just think they haven't quit on Jeff Hafley yet. I just think this game's going to be a little closer than the experts think. BC keeps it within 3 touchdowns, 200 Sluggo bucks.
200 Sluggo bucks. Navy only lost to Notre Dame by 3 last week. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm. The only team they crushed was Clemson, and they crushed Clemson. But Sylvester, I don't know if you heard my spiel, but it does me no good to end up with 500 Sluggo bucks. And I'm so far behind, I have to. And the other thing is, it's not real Sluggo bucks. It's not real money. So it doesn't matter.
You're saying you wouldn't bet $1,000 real dollars on this?
I'm saying I don't have $1,000 real dollars because the Astros won the World Series and Parker wants every jersey there is, and you will, if you haven't already, Beef, with a little boy who's bound to be a sports fan, you will find out how expensive jerseys are shortly in your life. Navy almost beat Notre Dame. That is true.
They super crushed Clemson. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. What do we got here?
He agrees with you. He heard you. And then all of the above. I'm Sylvester's translator.
It's funny, and he's speaking English. He doesn't need one.
He's speaking Casey, too.
All right, Locks' third bet is Texas Tech, and my favorite team to bet against, Iowa State. Every year, these guys get so much, and their coach gets so much love for being so great, and they're 7-5 or 6-6, and it just amazes me. But he's taking the over 48, which I wouldn't do that, but because I don't think Iowa State I don't know. Maybe they will. Locks is in first place. Who the hell am I to talk to him about
Right? Why are we
who to
questioning?
pick? Yeah. So Texas Tech, Iowa State over 48. How much is he betting?
500 Sluggo bucks.
Okay.
He's got 2,500 Sluggo bucks on the line this weekend.
Nice. I got 1220. Okay, here we go. Recap. Marty, Tennessee minus 21.5 for 110. USC, that would be Southern Cal minus 2.5 for 110. Louisiana money line plus 1350 for 1,000 Sluggo bucks. You'll never see a bigger Florida State fan than Zach Locks Parker this week. Casey the Beef Cregan, Wake Forest minus 10 against Syracuse for 1,000. LSU minus 14.5 against UAB for 246.87. Boston College plus 21 at Notre Dame for 200. Our fearless leader who is scared right now that Florida State's going to lose, Ole Miss minus 2.5 for a grand. Whiskey and Nebraska over 39 for 1,000. Texas Tech, Iowa State over 48 for 500 Sluggo bucks. Casey, this is like old times, just me and you. We didn't have locks to pick on. That's half the fun. Been hard to pick on him this year because he has been kicking the crap out of us in this game. I went for it big early and lost, and have struggled all year. Just as Locks and I were talking about, I just don't feel comfortable making any pick. I'm putting myself out of my misery with the Florida State pick, but wouldn't it be something if Louisiana won?
You'd be, I mean, the story you could tell Parker later on in life. I was down to my last pennies of Sluggo bucks.
And I'd have to, Locks, you and Locks would have to put me on the old silence conversation more than you already do.
This show might be over after this.
That's it. I quit.
I can't listen to that guy anymore.
No joke. Hey, I know you're on the road, bud, so why don't you say goodbye? Let's get out of here and you enjoy your evening.
I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group. Uncle John McGee, as always. Sluggo Podcast, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. On behalf of Marty Seldom Used Reserve Coleman and Zach Locks Parker, somewhere in the ether, I'm Casey the Beef Cregan. Make sure to check out rubbingtherock.com. We've got a lot of great stuff on there. John Chansey, Marty, Houston Burnett, myself. Check it out. We'll see you next week, maybe, for a Thanksgiving edition. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Sylvester, thanks for keeping it live.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, bud.
Always. Thank you.
Next
Sylvester.
week. Later.
I think we're done here.